Welcome everyone that's joining us. We're going to wait a couple of minutes to let the room populate. We'll get rolling pretty soon. Webinar format, so your cameras are automatically off. You're on mute, so chill out and do what you're doing. No stress. We'll be with you in a couple of minutes. We will let the room populate. There's more people coming in, and we'll get going in just a couple of minutes. Again, if you're just joining us, we're going to wait a few minutes, let more people come in. It's a webinar format, so cameras are off, everyone's on mute, so chill out, relax, and we'll get going in a couple minutes. All right, we'll wait just one more minute. We've got a pretty big group in here, so we'll just give it one more minute, then we'll get started. We appreciate everyone's patience, and we'll get going in 1 minute from now. Josh, did the Warriors play tonight?
No, tomorrow.
No, the Kings don't. Sorry, rub that in, but
No, don't rub that in. Save me a lot of money though.
all right. So we want to respect everyone's time and go ahead and get started. Welcome. Thanks for joining our webinar. We appreciate you taking the time. Some of you are maybe on the field, on the way back from the field, etc. We are recording this and we'll make it available to everyone after the fact. So, don't feel that you have to take notes or anything like that. Couple of housekeeping things. I know that the days of Zoom are here to stay, but hopefully not as much as maybe 3 years ago when we were doing this on a daily basis. But it's a webinar format, different from a Zoom in that your cameras are automatically off, everyone's on mute. For questions, there's a Q&A tab, not the chat. There's a Q&A tab which you can use to post your questions. We'll answer as many questions live as possible. And then if you feel after the webinar that there's additional questions, please contact us, info@davislegacysoccer.org, and we will get back to you. But again, the Q&A is the function you use, a little icon, depending on your browser, maybe at the top or the bottom. Please put that in there and we'll endeavour to answer as many questions as we can. We will have a hard stop at 8:30, which is an hour from now. So depending on the number of questions and depending on how quickly I go through this, then it might be sooner, but we want to make sure everyone we're done within the hour. So we appreciate maybe saving the questions as they may be organically answered throughout the presentation, and then certainly at the end there's a number of questions that a Q&A session that we can use for whatever we need. And like I said, the webinar has been recorded and it will be shared with everyone registered for tryouts after the fact. Again, the objective is to provide not only our current members, but maybe non-members registered for tryouts that are interested in finding out a little bit about the club and our plans for next season. And as I mentioned, the chance for us to answer questions to the best of our ability. We might not have all the answers. We'll try our best. If we don't have the answers right now, we'll certainly endeavour to get the answers for you in a timely manner. I forgot to introduce the panel. Myself, David Robertson, I'm the club's executive director. Justin Howard, if you give us a little thumbs up, Justin, is our club's administrator, head of finance, that does many things behind the scene. If I've given you the wrong introduction, Justin, chime in, but I think you wear many hats, so I think we can say as much as possible in it. You check many boxes, and then Josh Lutzker, who's our club president, who's going to open us up with a few remarks from our president. So Josh, over to you.
Well, thanks, David, and welcome everybody to the 2023, I guess, beginning of the year. Even though the beginning of the year was January, it's the beginning of the soccer year. Thank you for joining us and learning a little bit about Davis Legacy and the program and the family that we have here in Davis, which I personally believe is a little different. I had a child go through the program and is going into her senior year of college next year. And I'm still here volunteering. Kind of gives you an idea of the influence and the importance that the club had with my family. So I appreciate the opportunity to have your children come out and the opportunity for us to have you and your child be a member of the Davis Legacy family. As you can see on the slide, I am not shy about answering questions or taking phone calls. Pretty much every email I send out will have my phone number on it. So thank you again for giving us the opportunity to host your child and your family. And we look forward to answering any questions you might have tonight throughout the presentation. I look forward to seeing you out on the pitch. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Josh. And I will point out that one of the unique things, both Josh and Justin, as they mentioned, they don't have players currently in the club. They're well gone. Served many years here, but I think Justin's daughter's a year older. I think she's 22 now. McKenna's 21. So it's great to see people that have been through the club from their daughter's been 9 years old or their kid's been 9 years old, all the way through and still continuing to serve the club. Full transparency, I have two kids, a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. Almost got that wrong in the club. So when I present, I kind of, I wear my parents' hat as well a little bit. But so we all do it because we care about our kids and we ultimately want them to have the best possible experience. And ultimately, that's what we're here to do. So without further ado, I'm just going to push forward. A lot of slides. I think there's 60 slides in total. I'm certainly not going to go through each of them chapter and verse. I'm just going to reference them and we'll make them available. I think from this one, the key thing is lifelong passion for soccer. At the end of the day, we want players to come through our program and continue to love the game at whatever level is applicable to them. You can see here, this was just taken a month ago. This is the very start. And then at the end, there's players. We've, had a few players. This is Jalil Anababa, who had a great MLS career, announcing his retirement. And then some players that, played at the collegiate level. But that's just one facet of development. This, for us, is lifelong passion. If these players or even these players had things not gone their way or, kicking the ball with their kids when they're older or, turning on the game, with their family, and soccer's been a big part of their life and it keeps them motivated. For us, that's the lifelong passion that we want to kind of foster. And along the way, the very many interpersonal skills, that help people be successful later in life. So that's our vision and our mission in a nutshell. And there's a lot in it. We could dissect it, but ultimately it's a journey, and at the end of the journey, we want people to continue to love the game in whatever manner is applicable to their level. Couple of things I feel sets us apart as our coaching staff. We have a robust coaching staff. We have 40 coaches, which is a huge amount of coaches comparative to other clubs. We feel that having a robust and a large staff helps us cater for the different needs. We have, coaches with UEFA, USSF Pro licenses, UEFA A licenses, a number of licenses that frankly take a lot of time, energy, money, resources. We know though that a license isn't the be all and end all. Sometimes it's this, just being able to get down and connect and look a kid in the eye. That's often more than the X's and O's on a piece of paper. But we also know that current methodology and current coach education does preach quite a lot of this as well. So like I say, we're very proud of our staff. We've been acknowledged by many people as having one of the most qualified, experienced coaching staff, and it's quite a bold statement in the country. For example, there's a handful of people that have this USSF Pro license, and we're very lucky that we have a very committed staff to professional development. And it's not just the X's and O's about knowing the game; it's about everything we mentioned earlier. How do you motivate? How do you inspire? How do you look a kid in the eye? How do you give instruction? How do you take a selfie with your team when they win a tournament? And then how do you lift a team up when they don't do so well in a tournament? So I think, having a staff of so many, everyone's different. Everyone has a different way to, look at the game. Everyone has a different way to motivate and inspire. But ultimately, we all know that this, what we mentioned earlier on, is our end game, a lifelong love of soccer. Couple of things this season that we are looking to improve on and expand on. Our goalkeeping program. We've went from having one goalkeeping coach to now 3 in the last year. So we're very lucky that we've been able to expand our goalkeeping program, and with that, the number of trainings. We now have a college advisor for both the boys and girls, a formal college advisor. We have, I think, 24 senior players. We're celebrating on Thursday our college signing night, which is a good return. So we have some college advisors to help on that process. Obviously, as the players get older. I will say though that we also acknowledge those that maybe are not going to college for whatever reason, and we're going to be sending something out to celebrate all of our seniors who have achieved so many great things, and soccer being a vehicle kind of along the way. So the college advisor certainly helps navigate not just the communication with college coaches, but what's required as far as grades, what's required as far as eligibility, and we're really lucky to expand that. We piloted the program last year with our older boys and girls ECNL teams with speed and agility specialists. We're looking to expand that maybe to some of the younger age groups. Don't want to necessarily commit to exactly which age groups right now and how many, but certainly that's something that we are looking to use more readily, and we're really aware of how important that is in the physical development of the players. We offer, for those players that decide not to play high school and or maybe don't make the high school team, or maybe it's just not for them, we have training during that period. Drop-in training for those not playing high school soccer. Our skills is now year-round. We have a skills training program now in the spring, now in the fall and the winter, led by Ricky Alba, who's fantastic. That basically means that players can receive, if they train 2 times a week, they can get that 3rd night. If they train 3 nights a week, they can get that 4th night at their discretion when they want to drop in. No registration required, and it's a supplementary program. We've decided, we know that our winter break was a little bit longer than other clubs. We know kids are, chomping at the bit to get going, so we've shortened the winter break. So we'll get going a little bit sooner. So an extra month of training for our younger teams. We are aware that, you know, this year was crazy with weather. So we're already proactively looking at, you know, turf facilities and indoor spaces should the weather not cooperate. But we are looking to have more activity during that winter period. And then one that's just kind of just in the works right now are girls' second teams or white teams from youth 13 to 19. They were in the past formerly part of the ECNL Regional League. That was not a possibility for the last, I think, 2 years. That is now going to be back in place. What that basically means that our second teams get to compete against other ECNL clubs on game days and opportunities for ECNL showcasing. So we're excited that is back again. That's a league kind of organisation decision, and we'll certainly be reaching out to those teams that that will apply to with more information. So these are a few things that are maybe not necessarily new, because some of them were in the works as we went through the year, but certainly they're things that, based on feedback over the last year or so, we've looked to add to make our program as you know, as meaningful as possible. One of our other you know, key things is our facility. You know, obviously the winter's taking a little bit of a toll. The lack of sun means that some of our dormant grass is just starting to wake up right now, but within the next couple of weeks with the weather, we're hoping to see. This was taken this time last year, and you know, we had a little bit better weather last year, so you know, in the next few weeks we're excited to see our fields get back to how they were, with you know, the dormant grass just coming awake again. Obviously we have our 16 fields, and you know, these are aesthetics, but I think really from a development standpoint, having coaches be able to practice on half a field, sometimes a full field, you know, is massive, right? We have I don't know how many goals Justin can tell me if he wants, but we have enough goals as well. So that is a big part of the process, you know, and you know, we're really lucky that we can give players space to practice, goals to shoot on, and we feel that that's a big part of helping their development. So one of our crown jewels, we're proud of it, and we're excited to you know, get them going again. So that's our home. This part of the presentation here, I'm going to just kind of go over it a little bit. This is based on Simon Sinek, who's a, you know, I don't know how to describe him, a very interesting philosopher in modern day, lots of TED Talks on him, and he breaks down the why, the how, and the what in that order. And really, as a club 3 or 4 years ago, we really looked at that. We spoke about the why do we do what we do, how do we do it, and then what is the what. So a lot of work's going into this. We're working on this with our coaches. We have regular coach education. We have debriefs, and a lot of what we do on the field comes from this. I'll go through this again very quickly, and then we'll get to tryouts, which is probably at this point the most pertinent thing. Again, once you know the why, the how is easy. So the why is goes back to our vision, lifelong soccer, developing people that are, you know, robust in terms of, you know, the interpersonal challenges and the various things that life throws at them. That's why we do what we do. We want to develop well-rounded people. We want to give people a chance that can potentially play at the highest possible level, but we also want to cater for those people that you know, soccer is something to help them, you know, through life, through college and beyond. So that's the why. It's very clear. You know, we have we're very lucky. We have a pyramid which you know, starts even below this from the U68 program with our grassroots program, which some of you on this call maybe are part of, have been part of. We're very lucky that that's moving. And then you go into the U9 to U12, which is the initiation, 7v7 99. Moving up, we have you know, our NORCA leagues, ECNL. We have ECNL, which is Elite Club National League for boys and girls, which we're one of, I think, 8 clubs on the girls and 12 on the boys to be part of. One of, I think, only, I'm just off the top of my head, so don't quote me on it. I think there's only maybe 6 or 7 clubs that have boys and girls ECNL in Northern California. So we're really lucky that we have that platform to help our players get showcased. But at the same time, we also know that the NorCal League is fantastic. It's one of the best in the US club landscape across the country. There's college opportunities there. There's various levels based on, you know, the teams. So it's quite a you know, there's a lot of fluidity here, and we're really really proud that we can offer different levels based on the level of the players. First teams, something we've worked really hard on. We have with our men, we have our USL2, which is you know, quite a serious league, our UPSL, and then with our women, we have a collaboration with California Storm, who have the UPSL on the women, or the USL women, and then the UPSL, which is you know, the national champions right now. So they train at our facility. We have coaches involved in the coaching staff. We have players that have access to play with the team, train with the team, and it's a really nice thing to see on a Saturday, especially as the weather gets nice right about now. High level games taking place very often with former legacy or even current legacy players playing in those games. So we're really excited to kind of complete that pyramid. And that's really, again, it goes back to a little bit about the how. Mentioned this earlier on a little bit in the mission, our philosophy. I've mentioned this a few times: lifelong participation in sport, based on the environment. Again, you know, I'd like to think, I could be wrong, but I hope I'm not. As a director, I don't think there's any coach that would tell anyone that I ask them about results and benchmark their performance on results. I know I don't do it. So if anyone says that I do, then maybe it's the accent, I'm not sure, but we're looking for, you know, coaches that can really, we benchmark them on this right here. So, you know, we want to win every game. That's the objective of any sport. When you set out to play 7v7, 11v11, the objective is to score more goals than the opponents. We all know that. We're all competitive, myself included, but ultimately, the big picture is most important. If you win a game because, you know, you've player dived in the last second to get a PK and scored, then maybe that's not within the framework of our philosophy and our lifelong learning. So that's always at the forefront of the why in terms of what we do. Again, a little bit more in here. I'm not going to read it for you. Our core values were set by our coaches. We had the brainstorming. So pretty self-explanatory, the acronym DLSC. You know, so I think we all agree in life and however we go on, these things are important. Being dedicated, love, you know, goes in so many ways. Being sustainable and obviously collaborating are key ones. But we did, this was staff input, staff feedback, and these are the values that we as a staff have adopted, and we try and instill these in our practice, in our day-to-day practice and throughout the process. That's a little bit about the why. I'm just going to scan through the how. Yeah, these are things that our coaches look at, you know, just to give you an idea of, you know, the frameworks of develop, or this isn't subject, well, it can be subjective, but physical development, technical development, tactical, and then personality. At the younger ages, we've got to be able to move our bodies. We've got to be able to have coordination, and then being able to do that. If we can move, we can work on the technical, which means, you know, receiving the ball, passing the ball. As we can do that, we can start to think about decisions. And then overall, that's personality, work ethic, commitment, etc., etc. So that's our pillar that our coaches, you know, we work towards our pyramid. Yeah, these are things we send to the coaches. You know, we always look for our sessions to have these ingredients. I think the current coach education now is gone away from the didactic dribbling around a cone and dribbling back. We want the game. We want it to look like the game. We want direction. We want a goal. We want attackers. We want defenders. So, you know, there are times where you will ask them to just work on sheer isolated technique, but current data tends to say that development happens when you're in a game-like environment. So if a coach is, for lack of a better word, just scrummaging, it's probably by design. That's a lot of what the research shows, that if it's structured and there's a goal, playing the game is often, it has all of this. So, but again, it's within a framework, and it's within a tactical periodization without trying to throw in too many soccer terms, but that's part of the process. 5 W's, anyone that's went through their coach education that knows this, the what, the who, the when, the where, the which, or the why, actually, that I would change that in every session. So we ask the coaches to reflect on that. Again, check mark for the coaches. These are what we ask you guys as parents to hold our coaches to. We do coach evaluation periodically. And we want to know if they are, doing this, and we ask the coaches to work on this. Communication, quite frankly, I think every director I speak to in every club has to be better. We tell our coaches all the time that we have to communicate better, and we have to do that. We're committed to continuing to improve that. Everyone has different, abilities or different ways to communicate, but we know that that's an area that's very important, especially when you're entrusting your player with an organization and spending the money. We want to make sure what's going on. So we are actively working on improving the communication, which is a big part of it. Again, self-reflection from our coaches. I'm not going to go through it. We talk about this very often during our staff meetings. Here's what we're trying to get. Is very, it's a whole, again, not X's and O's. There's no there's not knowledge of the game here to a certain extent. Various things for education that we really, preach to our coaches. Having a base and having a knowledge of soccer and football is very important, having a love for it, but these ones are very important in the whole process. And then finally, I am going to just literally scan through this, both in the interest of time and both because it's there's a lot of information. But this is basically what we do at each of these groups. U6 to U8. Hopefully, well, no one's in this program at this point. Well, maybe they're transitioning out. But we have rubrics, metrics we want to measure. U8 to U12, we'll try to work on key terminology so that as they go from one coach to the next, we speak about the same stuff: the secure zone, creation zone, finishing zone. And then these are some of the buzzwords, if you will, that we're trying to ensure that the players know as they go through these age groups. And it's an easy way to check for understanding. Again, same stuff as before, but we've added a few in. Language doesn't change. Again, we're not telling coaches how to play, what formation to play in, but we give them some basic principles based on whatever formation to play. There's certain, not rules, but certain matrix we want to try and see. Same with U9 to U10. That was actually slides in the reverse order. Repeats what I said earlier on. And again, a checklist. Here's the checklist that we're looking for. There's never competency. If they were all competent in it, then our job would be done. So it's an understanding, beginning to understand some tactical concepts, and then execution as we go. And then this is a little bit more sophisticated as we get older. Same kind of idea. This is based a lot on the US soccer model, the 3 zones again, and then just some team tactical principles. We met as a staff a couple of years ago, technical staff, and we worked hard on this. And again, a lot of buzzwords, I guess, if you will, but, we are working hard to make sure there's like in school, you go from one grade to the other or one teacher to another. We want to kind of individualization in coaches is good. I think every coach is a reflection, or every team's a reflection of the coach's personality. We don't want everyone to be the same. Certainly they're not the same, but I think some similar terminology and some similar references helps everyone. With that said, last little bit I want to present before I can open up to questions, or questions are already open on the questions if you want to answer them or ask them rather, Q&A. Tryout overview, which is maybe the most pressing thing right now. On our website, times are there for the youngers that start on Monday. And there's a kind of schematic. We'll send this out, but just while you're on, if you're new to the club, you drive in the front gate, you drive up very slowly over our speed bumps, please. And don't go around them and, you know, fly the dust everywhere. That's why we put them in. And then you can see clearly there's, you know, you check in basically where your team are assigned. So we're using this back end. We do ask the parents stay behind the fence. We want to keep this space for the players. And I think the players really appreciate that. So once you check them in, you can chill out, please, behind the fence line. That's worked well over the last couple of years, but that's kind of our schematic there. Older, similar. Only difference is we're using bigger kids need a little bit more room, so we're using fields, some of the front fields on the left as you go in. So we spread out a little bit more across the complex. So we are very lucky that some of our age groups, we have a high number of players trying out. So I'm not sure. In fact, I know there's no club at all that can have 2 fields for one age group. We're lucky that we can have, you know, a couple of fields to try out and really see them in a true environment if we desire. So that's why we're spread out. We want to give ourselves as much space as possible to evaluate as well as possible. Tryouts, I think this went out in the initial email, but really this isn't our nothing revolutionary here. This goes back a little bit to the kind of game model and I guess the lay of the land. We're looking for technical players, players that are comfortable with the ball, players have insight, you know, game awareness. The personality piece is huge, which includes attitude and effort, how they present, and then speed. This can be broken down to speed of play, speed of thought, and the acronym we use is that's the TIPS, that's the TIPS, that's the tips for the tryouts. We'll update the website as we go. An idea here of our tryout plan. This may deviate a little bit, but generally speaking, at least for the first session, most coaches will follow it. We want to warm the players up quickly. We want to get into 1v1s in that same area. So we can see a lot in 1v1s, attacking, defending, creativity, etc. Then from there, we're going to 2v2s. And then from that next part, we go into small-sided games, 9v9, 10v10, the width of the field, and we can get a good look at the players in a competitive environment. So that's kind of the format that we'll follow. Again, we want to make this as transparent and as smooth as possible. We are also very aware that we are trying out for the players and the families as much as they're trying out for us. So we want to kind of put our best foot forward. We know that there's a lot of choices or a lot of opportunities. We believe that we can provide something that the longevity of it, the proven success rate, whether it's players, you know, going on to, you know, play in college, but also just players that have been through the program that, you know, have not played in college, but have continued to come back. And we've got players now coaching in our club that, you know, have come back and given something back. And we've had so many great stories of just the journey being something that's impacted players' lives. And we know that we're not perfect, far from it. We're always looking to improve and always looking to get better. And the best part of what we do is the players. And certainly as parents, we know it's a big investment in terms of time, financially, etc. So we want to try and answer as many questions, be as transparent as possible, and allow you guys to make the most informed choice, or the best informed choice based on what we can provide. With that said, I'm going to open up to questions. I know there's been some questions that Justin and Josh have answered. I'm not sure at this point, Justin and Josh, if there's anything you want to verbally can I answer, articulate to the group. Seems like you've been on top of the questions that have come in.
I think the one question for you to answer was a question regarding the boys ECNL Regional League, and how does that fit in with us, given that the girls are doing girls ECNL Regional League?
Great question. Right now, nothing. No news on that. No news on that at all. No news on that. I think might take a little bit of time before we. Yeah, right now, our ECNL program for the boys will just be our first teams, and this league is new. It's just getting off the ground, so we're going to have to see how things go. And at this point, we've not been invited, or no one's been invited to be part of that league. So it's a great question. We'll fill you in when we have more information.
Is that no one in NorCal, David, or just?
Yeah, it's going to be basically replacing the NPL. So the idea, and the same with the girls, to be quite honest, is the ECNL Regional League is replacing the NPL. On the girls' side, we have managed to, or not we, but the ECNL clubs in Northern California, well, I guess ECNL have decided to allow the ECNL clubs to have a division for the ECNL clubs within that ECNL Regional League. The boys is just getting off the ground. That may happen, but right now I just don't know. So I would be, I wouldn't want to comment any way or shape or form based on that. But it's a great question. Whoever asked it.
There's a question about the goalkeepers. Will they have a different tryout format, or will they just be in the goal for the field players during tryouts? I know our goalkeeper staff will be around doing evaluations and helping, but is there something different?
It's another great question. We get into games fairly quickly, so it's really on a basis of what the coaches need. We'll have our coaching staff on call. So, you know, if there's one team that have four goalkeepers, we'll ask the staff or one of the staff to take them. But then when they go into the game, which is the vast majority of the tryout, that's really where, you know, they're evaluated. But another good question, I guess the answer is there's kind of a hybrid approach to that based on the, you know, the team and how many goalies they have.
Let's see, what else do we have? My daughter plays goalkeeper on the field. Will she be allowed to try out for both a goalkeeper position and a field position, or will she need to pick one or the other during tryouts? So if there's a player that does both, do they have to pick one, or?
Yeah, they have to let the coach know, like, you know, I'm trying out, you know, especially as a goalkeeper. But I think it's good to let the coach know I'm versatile, you know, so the coach might see more in one position than the other. So, you know, when the coach sees a player, they may then say, hey, you know, I can offer you a spot as a goalkeeper or a field player and or both. So I think that's something that the player should articulate to the coaches as they check them in.
And are we going to let them know the practice times for all the various teams prior to tryouts? One of the questions is related to someone who has two kids, different age groups.
Yeah, we've never really done that in the past, but we're actually very close to having that. I don't want to say we'll send it out before tryouts. I would say that, you know, as the offer is made, the coach will have that information so that you can then make an informed decision. So we will have that information so that when the coach makes the call, they can tell you what time and what days you're training. Hopefully that helps.
Is the tryout like playing a game?
Yeah, that's the biggest. For the most part, is net like I showed you for maybe 50 minutes of the hour and a half. It's 9v9, 11v11. So we want to see them as much as we can in the game format. That's always the best barometer.
How fast do we expect responses for tryouts to normally come?
Yeah, good question. So we offers can be made the first night after tryouts, but they can take up to a week as you know we go through the process. So we say 7 days. We will let everyone know exactly where they stand. We don't want to leave anyone kind of hanging. But our goal is to try and get all our offers out within the week. Just please bear in mind that especially on the second time slot, it gets kind of late. So, if you're waiting for a call that night, it might be 9:30 p.m. before the coaches get home. So, don't stress out if you don't get the call that night or the night after. It does take quite a few days. There's a lot of moving pieces. We will call the number that you used on your bag or registered with. There's a couple numbers there, and if we can't get any response, we'll email you as well. And then if we can leave messages. So it could be as soon as the first night, but within 7 days we will let everyone know their status, which I think is the tryout window is actually 3 weeks long. So I know some other clubs take 3 weeks to do it. We want to make sure we do things in the most timely manner possible.
So Robo, I think a great question on here, and this is obviously, well, not obviously, but this is really dependent on the age group and which team. But someone asking in regard to the expected time commitment throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, there's the commitments to be at trainings and games, right? I mean, we understand though, like I would say in every program, I've got kids that do different things, I don't think there's a single program that would say, I think about my daughter's sports and sons, it's like, oh, well, you can come one day and not two. The expectation is to be all scheduled trainings and games. I mean, obviously things come up, life happens. We just expect you to communicate to your coaches in a timely manner. Our U9 to U13, our U9 to U18 white and black teams train twice a week. Our U13 and above ECNL teams train 3 times a week. Some teams, few teams train 4 times a week. That's coaches that want to go a little bit above and beyond, but that will be expectation will be set as offers are made. I will again, our expectation always, I think it would be naive of us to say come and go when you want, but we also know that life happens. There's different sports, especially at different levels. And as long as you communicate with your coaches that, hey, I've got this going on, that going on, in a timely manner, we work with you. It's not like you give up your entire life. Both my kids play 2 different sports, and we try and make it work. Maybe I should be hearing from the coaches whether it works or not, but yeah, I get it. There's other things that go on. So communication's key, and I think I'm learning as a parent as well is not overcommitting your kids. Not putting them in too many things at the same time, and ultimately putting them in a position where they can't do everything that they're committed to. So hope that helps.
There's a few other ones. Bear with me for a second. Open question.
This one, I'll do it. Could you explain the different levels of teams within the age ranges? I've seen something on the website like red, white, blue levels. Does that apply to younger ages too?
Yeah, great. I mean, there's no, all these questions are great. We have 3 levels. We have red, which is our first team, white, which is our second team, and black, which is our third team. That's the Surrey hierarchy, if you will, red, white, and black. 3 teams, red being the first team, white being the second team, and black being the third team.
If kids want more training, what is offered? Can you talk about all the skills, training, and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So, if a team trains Monday, Wednesday, we have skills training on Monday, Tuesday. So that means if your team's scheduled to train Monday, Wednesday, and the kid wants to pick up a Tuesday, they can do that and train the third night a week. Vice versa, if they train Tuesday, Thursday, they can pick up a Monday for 3 nights a week training. So that's, we do offer those extra
We
opportunity.
also have specialized goalkeeper training for the goalkeepers, where they get to train with the other goalkeepers in the club apart from their regular teams.
Mhm.
And then for high school age players who elect not to participate during the high school season, which is typically during the winter, we do offer training for high school players during the winter months while the rest of their teammates may be participating in high school. So, and then on top of that, there's also the opportunity, should anyone want it, we have a number of coaches that do provide supplementary private training that any member is allowed to do on their own with that individual coach. That's not part of Legacy, but that is allowed to occur at the complex.
There's another goalkeeper question, and I think I either positively or negatively, because I experienced this at the club. There was a few questions in regard to if someone wants to try out for a team and they play both on the field and are goalkeepers, is that allowed? Absolutely. And I just think that your player needs to communicate that with the coach, that they would like to have the opportunity to do both. My daughter did both until I believe U12. So she played on the field as well as goalkeeper. And then there was a question in regard to the U9, and a child being very enthusiastic about playing goalkeeper at U9, which is basically the first year of competitive soccer. Would they have the opportunity to train on the field as well? I'm saying this, I have no idea how every team works, but I would be hard pressed, any team at the club at U9 that just has one dedicated goalie, doesn't allow the kids to participate in the practice and only play goalie. I think everybody needs to play goalie at least once just to see what it's like and get a little perspective of how difficult that job is. So absolutely, they should be playing multiple positions at that age.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in there, not to name drop a little bit, but I'm very fortunate. I'm on a project with Franz Hoek, who's regarded as the best goalkeeping coach in the world. He was Dutch Holland national team goalie coach. He worked at Barca, Bayern Munich, Man United, and his big thing is he's talking about changing the terminology from goalkeeper to goal player with UEFA. That may be coming soon. So he talks very much about, the goalkeeper being a goal player, meaning that using their feet, integrating them into trainings is a big part of that. And our goalkeeping staff, our goalkeeping director, has been to your recent seminars. So certainly we're not pigeonholing people to, put their gloves on and be in goal for the rest of their lives. It's and it goes both ways. He talks about, players that have become goalkeepers or field players that transition to goalkeepers at 13 and 14. So yeah, absolutely. U9, we're not pigeonholing them. There's so much room for growth, decision-making changes, etc., etc.
Another question in regard to how many roster spots per team. I'll let you answer that, but we have 3 different age brackets. So I think, or 3 different field sizes. There's 7v7, 9v9, and 11v11. Each one of those teams has a different number of players or what you would call roster spots. David, you might want to expand on that.
Yeah, I might have to look up what we sent to the coaches, but I think for 7v7, please don't quote me on this. I'll get the right answer. What we sent to the coaches is maybe 10 or 11 for 7v7. 9v9 might be more like 10 to 12. Certainly as they get to 11v11, it's a little bit easier, 16 to 18. But when we get to ECNL, the demand gets a little bit higher. We can go up to 22, which we have done. So it's based on the team, the stage, the age. But yeah, that's the best information off the top of my head. But it's not we don't have a set in stone number. It's based on a number of moving pieces. I hope that helps.
I can just add, like, when you look at the averages over the years, typically for the 7v7s, we've averaged around 10 players per team. sometimes 9. For the 9v9s, typically around 12. Occasionally it's gone to 13. And then as Robo mentioned, for the 11v11s, typically 16 to 18. Although sometimes for the U17s and 19s, they'll go a little bit higher because they may carry 2 goalkeepers or an extra field player. There's a lot more challenges with schedules and people doing other things related to high school at the older age groups. So sometimes they'll carry 1 or 2 where you get a roster size near 20.
Robo, and one other question on here regarding our philosophy on younger player development is working on skills part of practice time at the younger age groups.
I'll say it depends on what's younger, which age group are we talking about would be my first thing, but I'll answer it generically. If we're talking about isolated skills, yeah, it's part of it, but we're not going to spend 40 minutes on kids dribbling around cones or juggling a ball when that's something that could be homework. We want them to be in the situations where they're making decisions. That's what all the coach research, coach education research shows is game related as possible. So individual skills certainly is important. It's the background of anything. Question just came in to 10 and 11 age group. I think there's certainly something in there that the technical proficiency is important for sure. But I'm looking at the question again. Always we're looking to develop technical skills. A lot of it can be done as part of a homework program. Yeah, so again, I'll just
and I would like to also add. Yeah,
sorry, George. I'll just reiterate again that the current coach education. I've been around many parts of the world. Is that the days of the Corver, turns, moves, tricks. A lot of the education and science shows that that's not game related, and unless there's decision makings, unless there's pressure, then that could start to get redundant. There's a bit of both. It's a great question because we have these debates all the time. So there's a little bit of room for it, but certainly we want trainings to start to look like a game after about. I tell the coaches this all the time. Your training should look like a game after about 40 minutes. We should see direction. We should see a goal. We should see opponents after about 40 minutes. Hopefully that answers. Josh?
Yeah, I was just going to add that that's one of the awesome things about our skills program, to where if you want additional individual skill training, that is exactly what our skills program is. I can't remember how many nights a week it is, but especially at the younger age groups, historically speaking, it's extremely well attended, and you are getting a solid 45 minutes to an hour of just individual skills at that time frame. So my daughter did it basically she was a goalkeeper for most of her time, but she went to skills every single week because it was just fantastic. And you meet a lot of kids, and you get to really, really hone in the skill on that. How long are practices?
I see one here. Could you make the white or black team from the first day of tryouts, or will choose red before the other colours? Great question. No, we and in the past we've maybe not been as I guess as efficient as we should be. In the past, we used to wait for the red team to shape up before we offer white and black, but we now know that we have many evaluators out there. And if we know a player is clearly at the, white team, black team level, or we think they're at that level, then we'll make that offer. We don't have to wait until everything's settled before things fall into place. So whenever we're comfortable, certainly the red team offers typically might get made a bit sooner, but we're not necessarily going to wait until, all the chips fall before we lock in the others. It's a good question.
Another question, the skills practices are part of the monthly dues. Yes. So that is included. So that is there. There is another question there, David, which is
I'll get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough question.
I got it. It's about, hey, it's a it's a good point. It's a question about supporting our coaches. You know, we never claim to be perfect, but we have a technical advisor who's a UEFA Pro license, who comes in and works with our staff, who's coming in at the beginning of June. You know, we've worked with various coaches, again, beyond the X's and O's. We've had Dan Abrahams, who's one of the top sports psychologists in the world. You know, so we're looking to help develop our coaches in as many ways as possible. And specific to the question, you know, and I'll just be frank, it's like, how do you provide support to coaches that lose, emotional support to coaches that lose frequently? Now, as I said earlier on, and I'll stand by it, I will never, ever, I have never, in the years I've been as a director, called a coach and asked them to explain a result or questioned them losing a game. So if the pressure is based on results, I guarantee it's not coming from leadership. It's maybe coming from, you know, external areas. So we as a club, we let coaches know that our philosophies, what we presented, it's lifelong learning. We want to win every game. We're competitive, no question. But I guarantee you, we've never let go of a coach for losing games. We've never, you know, had anything negative to say about a coach that's team's maybe not winning a game here or there. So as far as support for coaches that are losing frequently, I guess that's the support we give. We try to be proactive in our expectations.
I think part of that question also was how to supporting the players and the encouragement of the players, and how the coach support, like the team environment for a team that's losing a lot. How do we support the players as well?
Yeah, we had a presentation with our, I'm trying to find my book here, I can't find it. So yeah, we had a webinar on what drives winning just recently with our coaches. So, you know, well, not recently, it was almost a year ago. So, you know, we want to do more of that. I think that, you know, we speak a bit beyond the X's and O's, and you know, the what drives winning was a really good project that we embraced on, and certainly we'll continue to look to do it, because it's more about, as I mentioned at the start, the big picture versus the wins and losses, the X's and O's, and you know, that kind of stuff. So it's a good question.
There's a question here.
The final question.
Yep, final question.
Final question.
For keepers coming in from outside the club in the whatever age group, I don't think it matters which one it is. Are they going to have to beat out a current keeper?
Yeah, I mean, I think any position that the objective is to try and, you know, see where you are and where you stack up against others that are competing. So whether it's goalkeeper, forward, winger, you know, the objective is to try out and show what you can add to the table. So the answer to that is yes. So we're right at the hour mark. Certainly thank everyone for, you know, we had over 100 people on this meeting. Some great questions, really great questions, which were good for me to kind of, you know, take a step back. And certainly there's some questions that we've answered that are probably worth, you know, reminding our staff about. But hopefully you found this informative. If you choose Legacy for tryouts and ultimately your place for the season, fantastic, great. We feel we can provide what most people need, not everyone, because, you know, we're not for everyone. That's ultimately at the end of the day, you know, people make choices based on what they need. And if we are not for you, we still wish you the very best. We're very fortunate that we're working with, you know, youth players, and we're able to impact them in some way. And, you know, we thank you. We wish you all the best. And, you know, like we said at the start, if there's any questions we've not answered, please send them our way, and we will be happy to answer them when we can. Have a great evening, and we appreciate everyone's time, and fantastic.
Thank you, everybody.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.